All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. Before I start, I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Bahawakar Kodash, Yahweh, which is the one true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one true name is Yahweh Shai. I would like to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I've learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect, and shalom to you, sincere brothers scattered abroad, pushing forth this word in truth and sincerity. I am the brother Mashiach Razakah from the Servants of Yahweh Yahweh Shai Camp, Las Vegas, Nevada branch, and pretty much this lesson is going to be taught as dreadlocks are a heathen custom. It is not an Israelite custom. Dreadlocks are a heathen custom. Now, when I do these lessons, I always get a Jake that'll comment on a comment board and they'll get offended because they have dreadlocks. They'll get offended and they'll come on my comment board and try to justify that Samson had dreadlocks. Samson did not have dreadlocks. All right, he had plaits. He didn't have dreadlocks. Dreadlocks came from a wicked heathen nation. All right, it comes from a heathen nation. Dreadlocks is wicked. It goes back to Shiva. All right, it goes back to the East Indians. All right, the Elamites. All right, and we're gonna prove that dreadlocks is not an Israelite custom, and Samson did not have dreads. All right, he had plaits. Now, all you got to do is look this information up. All right, it says Shiva, and it says Shiva. It says there is not one specific place that dreadlocks come from. Any region with people of African descent or thick, coarse hair has dreadlocks in their community. It says early discoveries of dreadlocks. See, early discovery of dreadlocks have come from places in India and Egypt, and that's where that goes back to. All right, India and Egypt. All right, it says India and Egypt. It says the dreadlock deity Shiva had a significant impact on Indian culture. Now, when it says Indian, it's talking about East Indians, Indonesians. All right. It says, and was an inspiration for millions of people, all right, that practice Hinduism. Because, you have like Bob Marley, the Benjamites, you had like Bob Marley and other people who rocked those dreads, making it a fashion. But the dreadlock thing is a heathen custom. It's wicked. All right, because when you have dreads, you basically worshiping a false deity by the name of Shiva. It's Hinduism. All right, it says Shiva is the third god in the religion of Hinduism. It says physically described by his male body and female face, and of course his beautiful long dreads. So that's why in Hinduism, it's a religion. They wear dreads and they grow their hair long. It's basically saying when their philosophy of dreads in Hinduism is when they have dreadlocks and their hair get long, it's basically a spiritual relationship with Shiva, right? And that's basically what having dreadlocks is about. But you jakes out there that's seeing rappers do it and other people do it, so you think it's cool, so you put dreads in your head. That's wicked. Dreadlocks is a heathen custom. And then you guys try to come into the truth with that and try to bring that nonsense into the truth, saying that Samson had dreads to verify, and state your point that you can have dreadlocks because Samson had dreads. Samson did not have dreadlocks. All right. He did not have dreadlocks. All right. It says in Egypt there are findings of ancient mummies with dreadlocks and art that feature dreadlock humans. It says in fact some mummies have been discovered with their dreadlocks still intact connected to the skull. It says of the mummy. Basically, dreadlocks have been around since the beginning of man and most often are representing powerful things, right? Because the Druids had them, the Vikings had them, but they were wicked. All right, the Druids, they were wicked too. You had the Druids. You also had the Elamites, and you also had, it says in Egypt they wore them too. But dreadlocks is not an Israelite custom. It's a wicked custom. It goes back to Shiva. All right, and you can read that. That's an article. Now we're going to go to the scriptures because people love to justify numbers. They go to numbers and they're not realizing when they read numbers that it's not talking about dreads. It's talking about having plaits. All right, because we're not supposed to have our hair really us as Israelite men. We're not supposed to have our hair really long anyway. All right, and this is basically going into the Nazarite bow. But you Jakes that use that Nazarite bow, I'm gonna read you something in the scriptures, and I'm gonna ask you, are you doing this? You dudes that have long hair, have dreadlocks, going all the way down, this a Nazarite bow. Well, you can't keep a Nazarite bow, not in this society. This is Numbers 6 and 2. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite." All right. It says to separate themselves unto the Lord, right? Because when you are keeping a Nazarite vow, you're basically separating yourselves, all right, onto the Lord. So, like Samson, he was a Nazarite. He had his hair really long. The strength was in his hair, right? But we can't keep a Nazarite vow. We can't keep a Nazarite vow, all right? We can't keep a Nazarite vow. This is Numbers 6 and 3. It says, "He shall separate himself from wine and from strong drink." So with a Nazarite vow, you Jakes that use that, claiming that you're a Nazarite and you're keeping a Nazarite vow, you can't drink wine. You can't eat anything of the vine. You can't eat anything of the vine, tomatoes, grapes. With a Nazarite vow, you can't eat anything of the vine, anything. It says, "He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink." You can't drink any wine. You can't drink alcohol. You can't drink any of that. It says, "And shall drink no vinegar with wine, or vinegar with strong drink. Neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, or eat moist grapes or raisins." It says grapes or dried. Right? You can't eat raisins. You can't eat tomatoes, grapes, berries. You can't eat anything of the vine with a Nazarite vow. And that's the thing that a lot of individuals messing up on. You can't eat anything of the vine. So you people out there that saying you keeping a Nazarite vow, you're going off. Because you if you eating spaghetti, that's of the vine, because it comes from what? It's made up of what? It's made up of tomatoes. Tomatoes from a vine. So you can't eat anything of the vine. Tomatoes, grapes, you can't eat anything of the vine with a Nazarite vow. It says Numbers 6 and 4. It says, "All the days of his separation, right, shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree." You can't eat anything of the vine with a Nazarite vow. And I'm sure you Jakes out there eating grapes, raisins, eating like tomatoes. You cut a tomato up and eat it in a hamburger, or a burger or whatever it is. You eat it with a sandwich. You putting what? You putting tomatoes on there. You eating of the vine. If you keeping a Nazarite vow, you can't eat anything of the vine. I'm just saying, even if dreadlocks was a Nazarite vow, which is not, because it's actually talking about plaits. It's not talking about having dreadlocks. But even if dreadlocks was a Nazarite vow, you can't keep it perfect. You can't keep a Nazarite vow. Not in this society. All right, you can't keep a Nazarite vow. It says, "All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree." So you can't eat anything of the vine with a Nazarite vow. It says, "From the kernels even to the husk." All right, verse 5. It says, "All the days of a vow of his separation." It says, "There shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled." So right, even if you were keeping a Nazarite vow, you will have to cut your hair after a while. After a certain length of time, you have to cut your hair, and you have to put your hair in a fire, all right, till the days are fulfilled. So you have to cut your hair and put it into the fire, right? You would have to do that if you was keeping a Nazarite vow. So you can't keep a Nazarite vow, all right? It says, "In the days of it says, and the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled." It says, "In the which he separated himself unto the Lord, he shall be holy, and shall let the locks of his hair of his head grow." So you got Jakes that will use this right here and justify, well, I got dreadlocks, I'm keeping a Nazarite vow. But you can't keep a Nazarite vow. You can't eat anything of the vine with a Nazarite vow. And to add to that too, if dreads was a Nazarite vow, which it isn't, you wouldn't even be able to go to your parents' funerals. You can't be around no dead bodies or anything like that with a Nazarite vow. You can't. Verse 6, it says, all the days that he separated himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. So let's say if you was keeping a Nazarite vow, which you claiming to keep, if you lost a relative, like if your mother, father, or somebody died, you can't go to the funeral. You can't be around any dead bodies. You can't eat anything of the vine. You can't drink any alcohol, any liquor, any wine, or nothing that has grapes in it. You can't keep a Nazarite vow. It's impossible. And I'm sure you Jakes is going to people's funerals, going to relatives' funerals with your hair long. So obviously you can't keep a Nazarite vow. None of us can. You can't keep a Nazarite vow. That's why the elders and brothers say, in the kingdom of the Lord allows you to have long hair. Yeah, you'll have long hair. But in this society, you can't have long hair, man. You can't have your hair long. And dreadlocks is a heathen custom. That's not an Israelite custom anyway. It says, he shall not make himself unclean for his mother, for his unclean. It's like it says, he shall not make himself unclean for his father, or for his mother, or for his brother, or for his sister when they die, because the consecration of Yahweh is upon his head. So with a Nazarite vow, you can't be around anybody. If they deceased, you couldn't be around them with a Nazarite vow. So you can't keep a Nazarite vow, right? And to add into that that Nazarite vow, when you go into that word Nazarite, it means consecrated, which means to be separate. And I forgot to bring that out too, because that's what a Nazarite is. When you go into the blue letter Nazarite, it means consecrated. And that word consecrated means what? To be separate, because you're holy unto the Lord. So you wouldn't be able to keep a Nazarite vow. You know, you would not be able to keep a Nazarite vow. Get to the main point, because they like to justify that. And we're gonna go into the blue letter too for that word plat. All right, that word locks. That's in the scripture. All right, this is Judges 16 and 13, because this is what Samson said unto Delilah. This is Judges 16:13. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, If thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web. All right, and this is what Samson said. So Samson didn't have. If Samson had dreads, Samson would not have 7 big ass locks in his head. He has 7. He has 7 locks. He wouldn't have 7 big ass locks in his head. He will have plaits. And if you look at plaits, you could put plaits into 7 braids. All right, but 7 big ass dreadlocks, that wouldn't look right. He didn't have that in his fucking head. All right, he didn't have that in his head. So when you go into the meaning of that word, lock, which I just read in Numbers 16:13, right? It goes into the Hebrew word of mahalapa. If I'm saying it right,
Strong's H4253. Machlafoth.
Salakia. Mathlafo, which means what? Braid, lock, plait. All right? That's what Samson had. He had a braid. He had a plait. So when we go into the meaning of that word plait, which we get right here, it means what? Plait. It says to fold, to gather in plaits. It says double in narrow strips, also to braid or weave. You can't braid a dread. A dreadlock, you can't braid a dreadlock. But you can braid hair. You can braid hair. Because when you braid hair, it forms a lock. You can unlock a braid and you can lock it. A dread, you can't lock it. It's locked. You can't unlock it. All right? So when you get a braid, when you get in plaits and you get a braid, you're already locking it. It's forming a lock. Just like I use a childhood story that my mom used to read me when I was a kid called Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. She didn't have dreadlocks. She had 2 braided ponytails, which were 2 plaits, 2 big plaits in her head called Goldilocks. She didn't have dreads. She just had 2 big plaits in her head, 2 ponytail braid plaits in her head, right? So when you braid a hair, you locking it, right? You can't lock a dread, because a dread, you can't unlock it. It's just dead hair in your head. That's all dreads is. It's just dead hair. It's not even your hair. It's just dead hair. That's all dread is. Dreadlocks are dead hair in your hair, and it's all clustered up with dirt and junk. That shit ain't healthy. It ain't healthy for your hair. It actually thins your hair out too. Notice if you go to put in YouTube, put in dreadlocks thinning my hair out. Dreadlocks thins your hair out. It thins your hair out. You got all that dirt, and you can wash it all you want. Dirt is consistently in the scalp. All right, but with braids, you can take it down and you can wash your hair out. You can't completely wash your hair with dreads. I used to have dreads before I came into the truth. I'll be honest. I used to have dreads. All right, I was going off too, but that shit is dirty. It stays compacted in your head. You putting all that junk, all these damn hair products, beeswax, all that shit in your head, and it's fucking clogging up your scalp, and your head is itching when the sun hit it. you're sweating, and then all the product that's in the hair due to them twisting it, all that is coming out because you're sweating. So you got dirt, you got all that buildup of that product in your scalp getting on your clothes, it's all over the place. It's a mess having dreads. It's a mess, and it's wicked. All right. It says to braid or weave. So to braid or weave, and this is a perfect example. This is what Samson had. He had plaits, man. He had plaits. These are perfect example. He had plaits. He had plaits. He didn't have dreadlocks. All right. Dreadlocks is a heathen custom. It's not an Israelite custom. And if you look, this is what Samson had. He had plaits, man. Plaits. Plaits, 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 plaits. He didn't have dreads. He had plaits. So, Lord Wellness Lessons Edifying. I had to do a little quick little breakdown on this. Dreadlocks is a heathen custom. It is not an Israelite custom. If you jakes out there that's prideful, that's claiming to be in the truth, you got dreads and you getting defensive about it, don't say nothing on my channel. All right. Dreadlocks is a heathen custom. It is not an Israelite custom. You can't justify it. You're not keeping a Nazarite vow because dreadlocks is not a Nazarite vow. It was talking about plaits. Samson had long hair. He had plaits. All right. So Lord Wellness Lessons Edifying. Until next time I say,